this marathon is gonna be challenging. Mainly the fact that I stopped binge watching this show, and the fact that you probably wanted this marathon to happen way more compared to Quake of the Creek, even though that people have voted Quake of the Creek a lot more compared to this show. But at the same time, my knowledge of this show isn't really the best, so binge watching the episodes again, aside from where I left off towards the end of season 2, is a testament on how my experiences of the show can really tell when it comes to this second binge watch compared to my first binge watch. Well, my first binge watch was me enjoying animation, and the fact that it was before OKKO had been released from HBO Max. And I don't care if that streaming service is still called Max, I'm still calling it HBO Max because it's a much more better name. This first episode, similar to Quake of the Creek's itch to explore Let's Be Heroes, was another episode that I forgot years after watching it for the first time. The first time I watched this show was in early 2022, and in all honesty, I really wanted to experience more when it comes to my first binge watch because I really forgot a lot from this show. Not really everything, but mainly on what I really enjoyed, to the point that the credibility from this show has been lost in my mind due to bad things happening in 2022. The state I was in back then made me forget so much of KO being friends with Enid and Rad, among with other things. Granted, it was me watching so many shows back then, but at the same time, me being in a bad state due to so much bad things going on in the industry when it comes to cartoons being removed from streaming services, really sums up a lot that this show was really in a position of being mistreated and its value being overshadowed. So, with this being the second marathon of Summerpalooza 6, I need to discuss KO's character since compared to my reviews of OKKO in the past, with this being the first episode, I need to dive into his character as we continue on with this marathon. With him being so in the fantasy world on being the hero, well, he really wants to prove himself to everyone. It's basically the story that we've seen in the past, but I have to admit, it kind of made me understand that KO is so into being a superhero to the point that the logic in the show will instantly make me understand it over time once I watch more episodes of this show for this marathon. But since I also don't remember the battle between KO and Daryl, really says a lot that my first reaction of this battle upon watching this episode 6 years ago is a mystery that I'm never going to remember because, my god, if I actually remembered on KO not succeeding on facing Daryl, well, in reality, Daryl beat him, which wasn't really much of a victory considering of how weak KO is. So, getting back into this episode, when it comes to the battle between KO and Daryl, obviously KO wasn't able to win, and in a character development standpoint, it really makes sense for KO to be in this position, knowing full well that it wasn't really easy in the real world than what he thinks. And since that he doesn't give up, really sums up the character development on how he grows as the series progressed. To get this out of the way, it's hard for me to get the appeal that characters in cartoons being children is something that I should expect when it comes to their development and decisions. But when it comes to KO, with the world building being the way that it is, honestly, I can totally understand why they went this route in comparison to other cartoons in the past when it comes to the child characters having the leading role. And with Cartoon Network shows also having this issue in the past, which for me personally made it hard for me to get on board with, I can instantly see for a fact that KO himself would probably have something that made me appreciate him a lot more compared to other characters making mistakes that, let's just say, just felt a little forced rather than being how the characters are act in those types of scenarios. When it comes to Rad and Enid, they're not really main characters in this, and since that they do contribute on being friends with KO in the following episode, I really got the impression that they're mostly being used as mostly background characters to showcase that they don't trust KO as much. And considering that the TKO episode that I did reviewed 2 years ago made me see their bonding towards KO more understandable on the fact that KO as TKO doesn't want to be cute. Truth be told, I can connect the dots a lot more with that information compared to the other informations that I forgot, which isn't saying much, but at the same time, it made me see something in this first episode rather than later on, as in this second marathon. The theme of these 3 shows having a trio of Quake of the Quick being Quake, JP, and Kelsey, with this show being KO, Enid, and Rad, with We Bear Bears' show's trio, Grizz, Panda, and Ice Bear. Honestly, the openings of these intros, there's a reason onto why these 3 characters are getting the spotlight the most, because, well, not because I can't be able to find other clip arts of other characters to put in, but mainly the fact that these 9 characters mostly steal the show in these 3 shows separately. But then again, it doesn't change the fact that there are other characters in this show that are going to be having an episode of their own, and I am going to review them as well. Believe me, doing this marathon along with the other 2 marathons wasn't easy when it comes to picking out the episodes, and with this show having 120 episodes if you include the double length episodes, honestly, there's a chance that there are a couple or a few or several episodes that are going to be left out, but it's mostly for the best considering of the choices that I have in store for this marathon, since that I'm going to do special treatment of Quake of the Creek's marathon and We Bear Bears' marathon. And mostly as usual, whenever I upload these types of videos, new subscribers will tune in, and they will probably be in for more of a surprise, so that really makes these 3 marathons something to look forward to once the videos get uploaded later on. With that being said, this first episode is better than Quake of the Creek's first episode, since it does build up the characters a lot more, even though if it's only on 1 character. But then again, me rewatching this episode made me see more of appeal of KO's character compared to Quake's character. Granted, these shows are really different from each other, so comparing them isn't really the best way to showcase on which first episode is superior. Granted, there is the first episode of We Bear Bears that I'm going to be talking about after this video, once you get into that video, unless if you feel like it. But then again, these 3 shows of what makes Summerpalooza 6 somewhat interesting, mainly the fact that it's a long road until we reach to the final day of these 3 marathons. Those are the reason onto why this is called times 3 marathon. Reviewing 1 show from each show and doing special videos along the way, with every day being a triple upload. And that doesn't change the fact that there are also going to be bonus videos here and now, mainly fanfic readings. But then again, despite how overloaded this marathon or times 3 marathon is, I really want to celebrate my 10 years on being on YouTube, and these 3 shows are literally the best of what I can offer compared to basically any other ideas that I had, which in reality, I don't even think that those ideas will make my 10 years on YouTube any spectacular. It's a long celebration, but this is still Summerpalooza 6 at the end of the day, being its own thing. I'm giving this episode of OKKO a 7.75 out of 10. Now let's get into We Bare Bears.